As a builder, do you find that you really don't understand what's going on in the world of marketing, branding, and social media? On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about the difference between what was social media and what interest media is, and how organic posts help you build a brand, build a business. Enjoy. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max, I am your host. I appreciate you dropping in, stopping by, taking a look, having a listen, all that kind of good stuff. Welcome to you if you're on the podcast. Welcome to you if you are in YouTube land. And a special welcome to you if this is the first time you've ever heard me talk about business on the show. Great to have you along. I trust you get some value and that you can tuck something under your arm and go and make your business better. Right, as usual, like and subscribe. I probably haven't dropped that for a while, but we'd love to just, it's funny, I put something out on my personal Instagram, my personal Facebook page, and just to some family and friends, and just outlined, my experience from, say, 1989 as an apprentice right through today. Talked about business coaching, talked about this podcast, talked about the YouTube channel and whatnot. And really the emphasis was around, if you know someone who's in the construction business or thinking about getting into construction, forward them this post, and it had all of the podcast links and things like that. And the stats are that 50% of builders, general contractors like you and me, will be either broke or out of the business after, inside or in that 5-year area, after 5 years. And of course, by the time you hit year 10, 50% of what's left will also be out of the business or broke. So, congratulations to you for being in the room here today. There's no real ask on my part, but I'm going to talk to you about something that I've mentioned in the last couple of episodes, and that is the elitebusinessadvisory.com academy. Now, it's funny because I know of big coaching outfits that'll charge $36,000 US, which is about 50,000 Canadian. And, I don't charge quite that much. I'm probably half that, to be honest. But still, that is not reachable for a lot of you guys and gals. You think, geez, mate, that's just, out of this world, can't do it. And so what we needed to do was to put something in place to give you something between this free content, right, and the next little step up. And so what we've done is we've got the Elite Business Advisory Contractor Academy, and that's on that website. And so if you click on the Contractor Academy now, what this is that will tell you whether you've got the discipline to be able to put, a business together for starters, and then maybe the coaching thing where we do customized one-on-one, which is very catered or customized for your business, whether that's something you could do in the future, maybe 12 months, 2 years. So continuing to watch the podcast, working, on the content, listening to the videos and everything. There's about 20 plus videos there around specifics to do with the business building side of things that'll relate. And of course, if you're already in there and you're already in the Contractor Academy with Elite Business Advisory, and you've got questions about anything that's a part of that curriculum or that training program, email me questions, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. I am available. I'm wanting to help. And so part of that Facebook post that I put out was around, I'm doing my little bit to try and reduce that failure rate, to try and decrease the amount of builders that either go out of the business or go broke in 5 years and 10 years as I can. And funny, I was talking to someone the other day and they said, there's such a shortage on trades and builders. And I'll tell you why. Because we get involved because we love working with our hands and we put out really good product and we do good work. The problem is we don't make it look like, and I don't want you to pretend to look like you're making money, but the business doesn't make money. And so young guys and gals coming through, they look at us builders and go, mate, they got their ass hanging out. They're not making money. Why would I want to go into the trades? That's a loser's game. Guys, and a lot of that is around, and I'm not even getting into the subject matter for today, but, a lot of that is around we're competing on price because we're kind of desperate. And I don't know that there's a fix. I don't think there is. You know, if guys are out there and they're running around as a one-man band, chucking a truck and ladder guy, whatever, and they're just focused on paying their bills, not building a business, that's the polarizing part. Me, I'm about building a business. Guys out there that I'm competing with are just trying to make a paycheck so they can pay their rent, pay their mortgage payment, whatever. They're just trying to survive. And so they are absolutely gutting the industry, but sure, they're gutting themselves, you know. And so this is why there's got to be a change in our mindset around, okay, Max, but how is it possible to combat the guys that are out there that are just gutting the pricing and they're winning jobs on price, which is a race to the bottom, rather than winning a job on value? And so I guess that segues nicely into what we're going to chat about today, and it's on the board behind me. And we're talking about marketing and branding. If you're not in the feed, you're invisible. And so, you know, I began to think about this subject matter because of, you know, I've been following Gary Vee now for almost 10 years. And he was a lot of the reason I got involved, or my attention got redirected to, Max, you're not in a construction business. You are in a media. You run a media company first and foremost, and then you run a construction company. So I would say the same to you. If you are in construction and you want to build a business, I will tell you straight away, first and foremost, you're in a media company. You run a media company that specializes in construction. And the reason is, if you go across to Instagram or you go across to Facebook and you type in there Smith & Sons Cold Stream, you will see what I am doing, folks, right? So if you want a business coach that's in the trenches, that's doing it, that's leading from the front, then you got it going on right here, okay? So if anything, you're already here watching this free content, okay? Mazel tov. What you need to do now is follow my lead, watch what I'm doing on social. Now, I'm not even doing it that well, but I'm doing it better than most, which is ironic, okay? So you'll start to get a feel of what I'm doing in front of the camera, what my video team is doing. And remember, you guys, I think this is the shitty part about this game we play. We expect to make big bucks as a tradie or big bucks as a builder, but when it comes to investing in brand development or brand awareness or branding and marketing, not lead gen, don't go getting that shit twisted, right? People have got to know about the brand before they're going to pick the phone up and call you, or before they're going to fill out the form and put it in online. And so, you know, today, in essence, what I'm going to be chatting about is social media, right? Because, you know, for us just kicking off a rock and roll band, it takes me right back to the roots where you're a nobody and nobody knows you and you've got no street cred and you've got no reputation, and yet you've got a good product. You know, if you guys are out there and you're watching this, I want you to go across. I'd love you to do this. This is my only ask, other than the Contractor Academy, which is going to be good for all parties, is go across to Fresh Mix Rock Band on TikTok, and it's on Instagram and Facebook too, but on TikTok, and give us a follow, eh? And you can see me playing guitar, and I think we're doing an Offspring song, and you know, it's just like, it's so hard to get started. So it's good for me because it takes me back to 5 or 7 years ago when we first launched the Smith & Sons brand here in Canada, where it's incredibly challenging to get noticed, and you've got to invest a lot of time and money in getting that brand up and running. So today we're going to talk about marketing and branding. Right, first thing, being in the feed is non-negotiable. Gosh, visibility precedes trust. No visibility, no consideration. See, what we think is special is now becoming normal, right? And so if we're not accustomed to, or we're not embracing the fact that we must be on social media, we are doing ourselves a disservice, right? And in line with that, consistency beats perfection, frequency beats polish. I look at what I do, and especially as it relates to Smith & Sons Cold Stream, what I do, what my business partner Jed does, we feel like we're just not doing a very good job, and it's very raw, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to it, like all that sort of stuff. But then the videographer gets a hold of it, And you can see this on Instagram or Facebook, like you can, for Smith & Sons Coldstream, you can see what's being produced, and you've got to have the right talent. There's no question, right? You can't get a shitty videographer because that's not going to help you, right? So you want to make sure that you recruit well, even in the videography world. But, you know, I think something is better than nothing, but you do have to have a think about your messaging, okay? It's not going to magically come to you because guys like me will put you out of business. And it's not that hard, honestly, because most builders don't do what I do. I don't know why I'm here, but there is only a small percentage of general contractors and residential home builders that do what I do. And I can't explain that as to why that is, but it is absolutely a 100% competitive advantage. Because when I walk up the driveway to a person's home to give them a quote on their renovation, they go, oh yeah, I've seen your face on Facebook. There's already this little bit of comfortability, okay? So you have to get out of your comfort zone. Success lies outside your comfort zone, okay? And that includes, how do I go about building brand? I've heard Gary Vee say many times that Coca-Cola doesn't have a face to that brand. But VaynerMedia does. It's Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, I think more and more, Richard Branson, Virgin Airways, like the air, you know, his what do you call it? Aeroplane business, far out. But you know what I'm saying? It's like there's, you know, Jeff Bezos, Amazon. You've got Steve Jobs, Apple. You know, you've got Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. Like, what we've got to start being is we've got to be that big shot for our own brand, and that takes courage. And I know it's not natural, but we've got to push through that zone of uncomfortability, and we've got to become comfortable. So was it always in my comfort zone to drive a motor vehicle? No, it was not. I just went and tried it and got used to it, and now it's very normal, not a problem. Don't even think about it. That's what you need to do in your business. There's things that are there that you know, boy, if I took advantage of that and I did that, it would be good for my business. But we don't, and therefore that distance stays, and it is a disadvantage to your building company. If the clients don't see you regularly, even if you're putting stuff out, your competitors will. I know that my competitors in this town see the Smith & Sons brand, and it's everywhere. It's at the hockey rink, it's on the vehicles, it's on trailers, it's on site signs. We've got a job coming up on a main road. I'm going to put a dirty, great big banner there. It's like we've got to be visible both in the old analog world as well as the digital world. It's always a good thing. Okay, so it's not negotiable. Can we agree on that? Okay, good. So the next thing there is, and this is something that I've only really recognized maybe in the last 6 or 8 months, and because of Gary Vee, we once called it, or a lot of us would still call it, social media, okay? Because that's what it is. It's kind of like me talking to you, you talking to me, it's kind of social. But in this day and age, when I go to Fresh Mix Rock Band, right, and that's a channel or a platform or an account on TikTok that's specifically for our pop punk party rock band, that's what I do there is not mixed in with everything else that I do. I've got it very compartmentalized. So what I do is I go out there and I start following the Green Days and the Foo Fighters and the Blink-182s and the Offspring, you know, and anything is relevant to that. And then what I do is I find a few underground bands as well. So I start following those. And then what I find is that when I go into that account, all that's coming down that pipe is everything to do with either pop punk or punk rock. And so that's where we go from just being social media to now being more like interest media. There's a transition across here that says whatever you're interested in is going to be fed to your feed, okay? So let's bring that back around to us as building operatives, residential home builders. If I've got clients out there that are busily looking for general contractors, the same Google search that they would use over there on the good old Google, they'll use in Facebook. They'll go general contractors. Boy, general contractors in my area, general contractors in Vernon, BC, general contractors in Sydney, right? Whatever the case is, that's what they'll do. And all of a sudden their feed will start filling up with posts or content relating to that search because they're interested in that. So this is where we go back to the first thing and we say that if it is interest media, then getting involved is not negotiable. Because if you haven't got anything out there, people will never see you. That makes you, what you've achieved is now you're invisible. You don't even exist. And then you've got crazy Muppets like me that do nothing but love getting in front of the camera and making a fool of myself. Because I'm certainly not anything special. I'm no different to you. Okay? So social media that's transitioned to interest media, platforms now serve what people care about. That's the nuts and bolts. Not who they follow. So even though I follow a lot of those punk rock or punk rock bands, pop punk, it doesn't necessarily mean that's all I'll get. But anything that I start searching out, it'll be that's what I care about. That's what'll come down the feed. So the content must educate, entertain, solve a problem, and to earn the reach. So I think in this day and age, I was only saying to our video guy that, in some cases, the algorithm for TikTok 3 years ago was gangster. These, like I can put out, I'll tell you what I did. For Fresh Mix Rock Band, remember, go across there, help me out, give me a follow. I'd love to get to 100 followers just so I can use TikTok to record our live events. I can put it on live and you can watch us, right? But, on average, we might get 500 to 1,000 views on some of our videos. One, I got 0. Still to this day, it's got 0. But then I spent $17 on a promo where we're playing at a pizza joint, believe it or not, and it got nearly 6,000 views for $17. But back when we first started, the algorithm was rewarded us. It gave us the exposure. Now, if you do shit content, it doesn't matter whether you pay money or not. People are not going to appreciate it, right? So you've got to be very careful and not get stuck on perfection, but just put yourself in the position of a customer or an end user or someone that you're trying to sell to and go, is this educational? Is it informative? And does it help me solve a problem? Okay. So what you're trying to do is be very targeted because relevance wins, right? Relevance wins attention, and then attention creates opportunity. So this is where we go back to a very structured business development program that says you and your brand, your business needs to get attention. It needs to get eyeballs. Because off the back of that, a percentage will convert to a lead or an inquiry. And then we've got to make sure we've got a lead inquiry / management system. So a lead or inquiry management system that we can then bring these folks through. And we're going to have a sales process into a contract. So if you haven't got that laid out, that's what you're going to need to do. Right. So we don't ever want to get stuck now just calling it social media, because now that I've broken the ice with you, that's naive, okay? And it's ignorant. What you've got to understand is the power of interest media. And if you're not out there doing organic, see, when you put out organic, it's not like I'm paying money so I'll get more interest. You put out organic, find something that resonates with homeowners, in our case, because we're residential builders. And then what you do is you bring that back in, you tweak it, put a call to action on it, and you send it back out as a paid ad. Because you're not just hoping and praying that that ad will resonate with your target market. You've done organic, it's just cost whatever it costs to produce, and then you bring it in, you reset it, and you send it out with a call to action, and you would expect that there will be some call to action or some inquiry that'll come off the back of that. So we need to understand this concept of interest media versus social media. This is version 1.0. Now we're at version 2.0. And this is where if you're not doing organic, you're going to be completely invisible. Okay, so let's talk about organic content is a growth requirement. Organic posts build brand equity and long-term demand. See, you tell me what you think about a business or a brand or a place that you've gone to buy a product from or a service, and you look at their Facebook page and the last post they did was in 2023. See, it's all about being relevant, being up to date. And is it challenging to do? Yes. Does it cost some money? Yes, it does. But what is the cost of invisibility or irrelevance? So they have a cost associated. So it is it's a lose-lose if you're not on organic. So organic post builds brand equity and long-term demand. I think we get the best of both worlds. We put out the organic content, we see what works, we then bring it in, we deploy it as an ad. Meanwhile, the organic stays out there. So when people see the ad, they might then click on Smith & Son's cold stream, and then they'll be able to go and filter through. Or they might actually go and go, how credible is this human? I'm going to go check out on Instagram, see what they're doing over there as well. And of course, we're doing both, right? And you should be as well. It's funny, I probably get 5 emails a week that people that want to come on this podcast. And if you look back through the history of 270 odd episodes on this podcast, you'll see that I don't do too many guests, okay? And the other day I had an invite. I had someone that said they wanted me to come on their podcast. So what did I do? I don't know who this dude is. So I go straight to Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. What am I doing? I want to know who this gangster is. I want to know if is he a gangster or is he not a gangster? Is he a pretender, right? So we just got to make sure that what we're doing is good enough, and it's almost like a resume or a CV. We're getting trolled all the time. You just make that assumption. So if you're a builder that says, I don't believe in social media, well, you're just going to become irrelevant because people are not going to trust you. They're going, well, everyone else or the majority of other general contractors or builders, they do the social media thing. This guy does not. Irrelevant, not even going to call you. So guys, I think the object of today's chat is to put a stone in your shoe, get you to tuck something under your arm maybe today, not that you can go and implement, but something to think about and go and to consider and go, if I want to build the business that I want to build, it's going to have to be done in ways that are relevant to today's marketplace. Okay, and so, I was listening to John Maxwell, an audiobook, and he was talking about Henry Ford and how he wanted to just do the Model T Ford and he didn't want to change. And, he slowly became irrelevant because he refused to change. And, there was some fairly decent heat that had to come on him before he would actually make a move and go across and sort of start to consider. Matter of fact, they put together a vehicle that was supposed to either go after I think it's the Model T. I hope I've got that right. But the next vehicle, and he ripped the thing apart with his bare hands. He was disgusted that they would go and think that they could build a better version of the Model T. So, guys, I think we've got to embrace change. And, you can be what they call a laggard, which means you're a late adopter. And I learned that term probably a decade ago, and I thought to myself, industry and technology is changing fast. I need to get on it. And of course, with the advent of AI, that was something that I latched onto straight away and really used that at a high level in a lot of aspects within our business. Paid ads without organic proof struggle to convert. Why would that be? See, what an ad is, it's a call to action. You're asking for the business. And I'm going, hang on, your ad's popped up in my feed. Right, don't know you, don't know your brand, don't trust you, don't even know if I like you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Smith & Son's cold stream because there's an ad, and we haven't run Facebook ads for a long time. But if you were to click on Smith & Son's cold stream, it would take you across to our feed where our posts are, or our page, and you could comfortably scroll through there. You could then hit the link for the website, and you could go and listen to 20 video testimonial reviews. You can go on Google reviews, and there's maybe 28 or something, and it's a 4.8 or whatever it is at the moment. And so, there's all of these little data points that homeowners can get a warm and fuzzy and go, okay, I can trust these people. Maybe I'll book a meeting off the back of their ad. But they're going to see the ad, they're going to go and do some research, and they might come back and inquire. I was only talking to someone today, and they say, where do you get your leads from? And I said, look, ultimately people end up on Google. I remember in the days we had radio ads, and people would hear the radio ad, Smith & Son's jingle, driving down the road, smithandsons.ca, and they would get home, and then they would inquire, because Smith & Sons is easy to remember, Smith & Sons General Contractors or whatever, and then they would inquire, and then they're on Google, and they would, in the box, they would tick, where did you hear about us? They would say Google, not the radio ad, So we still subscribe to doing non-digital things, like with the ice hockey, the hockey rink and the rink boards and the trailers and the site signs and the wear remodeling in your areas, the direct marketing. Guys, if you're going to do a renovation here, well then what you need to do is have a wear remodeling or wear renovating in your area brochure and put it up and down the street. And it'll say things like, we make sure our garbage control is good. We make sure we don't have any barking dogs. We don't have the rock and roll playing too loudly. And here's my number. If there's any issues, you call me, or whatever. That's direct marketing. And it's really, it's very unorthodox and it's very uncommon, but it's not hard. It's not difficult at all. Okay, so we want to make sure that if we don't just go and listen to an agency. Be careful. Don't just go listen to an agency and they say you've got to run Facebook ads and you've got no organic. It just looks desperate. It looks desperate. The more organic you put in, the better your ads will look, because people can go and research you, and it will actually then, it'll work together. The paid ad and the organic work together to help you convert. Right. Growth comes from showing up, sharing value, and staying visible. It's funny. I've got a bit of a extended family member who has flipped out and wants all of the photos of her kids offline, and that's fine. She can do that. But of course, we all share different family members' photos, and she's freaking out. And it's like, I know that some people think that social media is an invasion of your privacy, but we give up privacy for convenience. We enjoy having access to get entertainment on our phones and watch Facebook feeds and things like that. And, it's like the whole privacy thing, even though it is metered and it is measured and there is capability, and I get that and I think that's good and I think that's healthy. For me as a builder, I was chatting with a buddy in Texas today, and he's like, you've got a very big footprint, on Google and on the internet. And because it's not hard, you do a search and it's not hard to find me, whether it's from general contracting or whether it's from, business for builders, or whether it's from Elite Business Advisory on Facebook, on Instagram. So I think what it does is it exposes, if you're a crook, I think if you've got to be that out there to build business like I am, like Gary Vaynerchuk is, like Alex Hormozy is, then you're going to compromise your autonomy and your privacy somewhat. And then, we all want to build a rock and roll band. So what's the first thing we do? We run to digital. We run to social media. We put videos of us on the stage there playing at a Christmas function with our clown suits on. Like I said, go to Fresh Mix Rock Band. Okay, the most recent post, other than the paid post on TikTok, is us playing Offspring. Get across there, give us a follow. Come on, help me out. We've got to get up there, at least 100 followers. Come on, guys and girls, follow me up. Right, so in closing, marketing isn't optional anymore. It's the cost of staying relevant. See, and that's where I think in the old days, being in the feed in some guys' minds was just like, oh, maybe it'll be fine. I'm old enough to kind of have some semblance of remembering that the yellow pages and then the internet came out with websites, and you're like, well, why do I need a website? I'm going to have the yellow pages. Guys and gals, who can find me a yellow pages right now? It's becoming less and less and less and less, because the written form nobody's looking at. Why? Because it's irrelevant, because technology has given you and me a much easier, more accessible, less or low friction option. It's called the internet on your phone, right? And so it now becomes not negotiable. If you want to try and negotiate success, particularly as it relates to digital marketing, unfortunately, my friend, you're maybe not going to lose. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but certainly you are going to become invisible and irrelevant. And you might just tick along with some local word of mouth, but you're never going to build a business. So if you're wanting to build a kick-ass business, you need to understand the difference between social media and interest media. Social media is pretty much a non-event, okay? This is where the action's at, okay? We've got to be here. And as business owners and people that want to have success in the vocation that we have selected, like I have. I decided, actually my dad dragged me out at grade 11 and said, you're not smart enough to go to school, you need to go to tech college and become a freaking tradesperson. So that's what I did, and it was quite good, no regrets. But at the end of the day, if we're going to do something, then we should do it to the best of our ability. If we are going to try and make money out of this industry, we should make as much as we can, and that's where digital marketing, especially as it relates to interest media, marketing and branding is where it's at. Now, before I go, get across to Contractor Academy. Invest in your own education. The more you learn, the more you earn. Get after it. Go and build a kick-ass business. See you on the next episode. Cheers.